Welcome to Hidden Hilltop Homestead. In this video, I'm going to be discussing how much I made selling rag quilts in 2024. Now, before I get into the numbers, I would like to put a little disclaimer here. I make rag quilts in my spare time. I wouldn't even call this part-time. And last year has been my best year yet. I think I started in 2022. I made 2 quilts that year, and I made a couple in 23, and then I made 19 in 2024. I finished 19. I had a few that I started at the end of 23 that rolled over. But so yeah, it is a very part-time, spare time thing for me. So the numbers are going to reflect that. However, this year I have been working very hard to put out more quilts, make more sales, special orders, and I've also been building my YouTube channel, so I'm very excited to share that as well. But anyways, let's talk about income for 2024. So I finished 19 quilts and I sold 17 of them. Of those 17 quilts, some of those were partial payments, meaning that when somebody placed a special order, they put down a deposit and then there was a remaining amount due at pickup. And for those 17 quilts, I made $1,750. So my quilt sizes range from crib size up to California King. Most of the quilts I made last year were throw, so that is like my oversized throw, which is 60 inches by 60 inches. I did have a few crib, and then I also had a queen quilt, and the queen quilt was a partial payment. So 17 total, $1,750. Then I also did a repair job for a vintage comforter, and that was $150. And then I also had YouTube. So I became monetized on YouTube in the second week of November. So I had 3 whole weeks in November for my very first month of monetization, and that was $258. If you don't know, YouTube pays you for the entire month the following month. So I was only able to get one payment, which is at the end of December for 2024. And then I had one miscellaneous income, which was shipping fees. So $45 in shipping fees. Whenever somebody orders, they need it shipped, they pay postage, and then I also charge a little bit for the packaging and materials. So total for the quilts, the repair job, YouTube, and the shipping was $2,208 in income. Now, I also took most of that, turned around, and invested it back into my business. I also just absolutely love sewing, so buying fabric I feel like is its own thing. And then, of course, there's sewing. If you sew, you know, obviously. So let's talk about expenses. You're going to be a little bit surprised, but I spent $1,113 on materials. So that includes fabric, thread, batting, interfacing, any type of like material, physical material used in the quilts is included in that number. Now I bought several chunks of flannel, and I was able to get a really good deal on them. That's why I did this. But I have, I think, 15 different backing colors right now that I can use on a variety of quilts. So I invested a lot of money in material, but this year I think I've spent maybe $40. We're in the middle of June, and I have spent $40 on material because I stocked up at the end of last year. And I'm so glad I did. Joann's going out of business. We're kind of like up in the air right now. I know Michael's is buying some of their stuff, so it was a good time to stock up. That's what I did, and I'm glad I did it. So other expenses, I also spent $601 on equipment. So that includes a crafting cart, which I use for storage, a new printer for printing out shipping labels and patterns. I got a tripod for my phone for filming. I got a new microphone for my phone for filming. I bought an iPad, which has been super helpful with creating my YouTube videos. I also purchased some general materials, as in like needles, scissors, shipping boxes. I got some supplies for my quilt care kits, color catchers, things like that. And then I also had $48 in shipping expenses. I know $48 is more than what I charged, but I actually ate the shipping on one thing for a family member. So, after expenses, my total income was $446. Had I not invested so much into material and tools and just calculated in the cost of making the quilts, I would have obviously had a much higher profit. However, doubling down because I did have such a good year last year has enabled me to be even more productive this year. I'm already on schedule to at least double what I made last year, so that's very exciting. My YouTube channel is growing. I have better equipment for doing videos and things like that, so it was a really good investment. My goal this year has been to at least double what I made last year, build up YouTube, and make a different variety of themes and designs for quilts. I want to make different sizes. I also want to branch out and try to do a few craft shows in late summer, early fall. So I was just setting myself up last year for success, and it's definitely paying off. My goal with this is not necessarily to replace my full-time income, but just generate a little bit of extra to kind of help us do fun things like for vacations or to buy a new refrigerator or a new microwave or something like that. So this is really just turning a hobby into an extra couple $100. And although my profit was only $446, I still think it was absolutely worth it. And I'm very excited for what this year holds. I am super excited to see the numbers at the end of the year and to just kind of look back on all the different quilts that I've made this year and just, I just the growth is what I'm excited about. You may have noticed also that I didn't say anything about taxes. If you are interested in starting a small crafting business or something along that line, definitely speak with a professional to know what your tax situation will be. I feel like that's the best advice that you can give other than looking things up on the IRS website and your state tax website. That could also be helpful, but just speaking to an accountant or to a tax preparer, they can help you with figuring out what you need to be doing and what you need to be paying throughout the year or whatever your tax situation is. I do have a few pieces of advice for anybody who is interested in like crafting, accounting, or whatever. Just basically ideas for keeping your books. It's better to keep track of things as you go rather than putting things off and trying to think back or look back at what you bought. Keeping receipts, maybe a spreadsheet or even just a notebook of writing down what you're buying, what you're selling, when you're selling it, when you're buying it, just to kind of keep your paperwork together. Definitely keep receipts. Maybe even look into some type of bookkeeping program. I know there's several different things on the market. You can just Google some type of bookkeeping stuff. But just tracking your records and keeping everything organized month by month, and it just makes everything so much easier when it comes tax time or if you just want to check in on your business. At the end of the day, I'm very glad that I stayed as organized as I did last year. I'm very proud of how I did, and just being like a one-man show doing this in my spare time, I feel like 19 Quilts is a good bit. So thank you guys so much for checking out this video. I know this is a short one compared to how I normally have them, but I do have some quilt vlogs coming up very soon. I'm also going to have some tutorials and a few other fun little videos. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye!